As you can see, I have all kinds of videos on here. I hope you like them, find them informational, enlightening, and maybe entertaining. Please subscribe to my channel. Let me know what you think of these by giving me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Thank you. Today we're going to do some maintenance on my Harley for the trip to Sturgis 2017. First off, I want to show you this little device here. You notice my bike's just sitting here. It's not strapped on or nothing. This little rocking device was built for me by a friend. It rocks your tire in there, locks it in there once it's in there, so your bike can just sit up all there by itself. But I'm going to lift this up in the air on this ramp, and I'm not going to trust that. It's good enough to get off the bike and then tie it down, and that's about all I'd use it for. You can buy these, cheaper ones, at Harbor Freight now and probably many other places. They're a good investment, especially if you work on your bike alone a lot, which I do. Of course, for this task, I will need a supervisor. So I have brought my supervisor with me, and he is going to make sure everything's done properly. Isn't that right, Hank? Squirrel? Oh, yeah. I keep a detailed book, quite thick as you can see, on everything I do on the bike, the parts that I put in the bike, where I bought the parts, and so on. I also have this here, so I can tell when I need to change the oil and so on. A lot of this is information on the tuning. I have a TTS tuner, and so that's a good idea, I think. Keep track of everything. You ever sell the bike or whatever, you have this to hand to the person and they'll know exactly what you've done to it. So let's put it up in the air and get started on the thing. We're going to change the motor oil, and lock it down a bit. There we go. Anyway, we're going to change the motor oil on the other side. This is your primary case. I don't change this oil or the transmission oil every time. This oil is not exposed to any air where the dirt is. Only thing you're going to get in here is your clutch matter as it slowly wears off, which doesn't wear that fast. And then on the other side, you got your transmission oil. You could change that too, but it's the same thing. It doesn't get any dirt in it, so it doesn't get much wear on the oil. Once a year probably be plenty for that, unless you just like to change oil. And depending on the miles you put on it also. But we're going to change the motor oil now. See what we got here. I don't know if you can read that. It is cold and it is full. But we're changing oil out. This is your transmission dipstick right here. So you could check. You want to check the oil anyway, if you change it or not. This motor's just been rebuilt. I don't think I have very many miles on it. I'll put the miles right up here. You see the miles? That's how many miles that are on it, on this oil change, and then on the new motor, new rebuild. And it was rebuilt from the crankcase all the way up. Had to put a new crankshaft in it because a $4 bushing went out, and you can't replace that. You got to replace it with a $700 crank kit onto the oil. I went on many forums and I've checked what everybody else is using, and the HD forum that I went to had the top 3 choices were some oil, racing oil called Red something or other, and Amazon oil was second, and then this was third. Well, you can't get the other two if you're on the road, but you can get this at just about any parts place. So I went with this because it was great. It was above the Harley Davidson oil for choices. But filter, I go with a Harley filter because it's the best. There's just nothing simple, nothing difficult about that. It's the best filter on the market for your Harley Davidson. You read all the forums, and they all suggest this one will keep out way more dirt than the other filters. Now, I don't care if it's black or chrome. It doesn't matter to me. I grab what's on the shelf. I don't know how much oil this is going to take. It says it takes 4 quarts. I've never put 4 quarts in here. I got about 3.5 quarts here, and that'll probably fill it up. I'm not for sure because I just put on, as some of you have seen, the new oil cooler. That's the reason why my motor went out. I got it too hot going through southern states in August. Another video also. So let's get the oil to draining. Okay, underneath here, you're going to see this drain plug right here. Well, that's for your transmission. It goes up that way. So don't confuse it with your motor one. Because you got your oil pan right back here. And you got that's your drain plug right there. This here was a sensor I put in for an oil temperature gauge, which I no longer use. So that'll be pulled out and a plug put back into it also. But that's how you change your transmission fluid right here. Drain it out there. And this is how you drain out your motor oil. So we're going to loosen those up. Not the transmission. I'm not changing it this time. I've only got about 1,600 miles on this new rebuild. And everything was already done at the shop. So definitely don't need to do anything but the motor oil, and I'm only doing it because it's brand new. It's time to get rid of that oil in case there's anything in it that needs to be taken and thrown out. It is a 5/8 wrench. Now remember, lefty loosey, righty tighty. So you're going to put the wrench on there and you're going to pull up on it, and that breaks it loose. Now you don't need that bolt tight, extremely tight, because it does have a rubber O-ring behind it. You got to get it snug. You don't want it falling out, go down the road. So it's kind of a thing you may want to even use the torque wrench on if you're not familiar. It'll have your torque specs in your work manual. Have your drain bucket ready, because it ain't going to wait for you when you start taking the oil out. Can't see it very good, but it's pouring out there pretty good right now. And you can even see through the oil, so it's not dirty at all. It's just because I want to change it for the ride. Another thing, once when you pull this off, if it falls into dirty oil, don't worry about it. Just take it out and clean it. Better than making a big mess on the floor trying to fight the oil bucket. Now then, if you don't pull this dipstick out, the oil's going to take forever to drizzle out of there. So just unscrew that and the oil will flow freely. While my oil's draining out, which I will leave draining out until I'm ready to put it back in, this don't happen very often. My valve stem. It's where I can actually get to it without having to rotate the tire. You want to check your air pressure in your tires. They do leak down. Let's see what we got here. Just a regular air gauge. .42, where I usually keep it. So I ain't adding no more air there. But I'll check the back one now also. I'm going to turn on my ignition. I'm going to check my headlights. And that's working fine. Looks like my clearance lights are working fine. All the lights on the trunk and on the back are working fine. So now let's check the high beam. Working fine. Oh, this thing looks like maybe it's boring, but it's really necessary. And we'll take this, check the spotlight or driving lights, which in my case I've changed over to fog lights. They're working fine. I added this little LED strip here The more lights are on the front, the better, I think. So them are all working fine. Now that's stuff you need to check. You don't need to check this. I have also lights underneath the motor, and you've seen all that fancy crap. I got them underneath there. They work. So we're good with lights. Oil's still draining. You're going to want to just walk around and check wires. Make sure they're all secured. That one don't look like it is, but it is right there. Make sure your cables are not wearing on anything. Just double check stuff. Walk around it. These little tables are awesome. You can pick them up at Harbor Freight too. Not this one. You want to just check everything. Make sure your bags are still secure. Everything's going good. So overall look of the motorcycle. If you're wondering what this little chain's for, it's for locking my helmets on. Not going down the road naturally, but if I pull in somewhere and I don't want my helmet stolen, once I'm parked, I just stick this through the helmet and lock it right there. You could lock anything on with it you want. You can't lock the bike up. So everything's going good. You all have these little connections on your motorcycles. I took mine and hooked it up to a USB port. And then a cable. And the cable goes up underneath the seat, on the frame, down, and runs through here, and then goes inside the box where I can put my cell phone or anything else I want to charge right in there and lock it up. It won't go nowhere. Now when my cell phone is charged, I just drop it in this little bag right here. That's why there's nothing in this bag. That'll carry my cell phone going down the road and keep it out of my pocket. It's still drizzling, so I'm not changing that, but I'm just going to continue checking stuff. Now this takes a 5/16 Allen wrench, and you just twist your bolt out naturally. Myself, I change the covers on every bike I've ever owned because I don't want to look like everybody else. This cover right here is off of a old shovel or pan head, and then I had to trim it down to make it fit over my K&N air filter. But I'm going to pull that off now. I'll check it out, see if it needs to be cleaned. Like I said, most everything's already been done just a few, about 1,600 miles ago, so I know I won't need to, but I'm going to look at it anyway. The good thing about these filters is you can pull them off, clean them up, oil them back up, stick them back on, reuse them, rather than the paper ones. I always go to this brand. I've decided to take this off and clean it. This is a Torx 25, I believe. And we're just going to pull this thing off. Somebody must have put some Loctite on this at the shop. Or didn't cross-threaded it. See what we got. Oh, the whole thing came apart. See this here? That's not supposed to come out. It's supposed to stay like this. So them are going to get Loctited back in. They're not supposed to be coming out. That apparently didn't get Loctited in. Okay, let's take it over to the solvent tank and clean it out. Okay, I've got all these pulled out. And they were all loose, which shouldn't have been. So I'm going to put this Loctite on there. As you've seen, it's 243 blue Loctite. I'm going to put a dab on the end of each one of these. A little dab will do you. Hard to do this looking through the camera. Let's see. Little dab there. Little dab there. Now I'll tighten them in. I'm guessing the torque specs on that's probably about 10. Not very tight. You don't want to bust them off, that's for sure. So I'll snug them in there, and then they'll lock in with the Loctite, and then the other little screws will come in and out of here like they're supposed to. These will stay mounted into here. All right, there they are. Blue Loctited in, snugged up good and snug. You can still break them loose with blue Loctite. They'll, if you need to get this cover off and get to your throttle body, you can. But they're not supposed to be twisting off with the other part. So that's fixed. On to cleaning the filter. I'm going to clean that out in my solvent tank here. And I'm not going to be able to hold the camera and do that at the same time, and I don't want to put it on a tripod. So if you don't know how to clean one of these, maybe you should learn. It's pretty simple. Clean it out, run the solvent through it, clean out the inside, wipe it down good. And then I'll show you how to spray the oil on it very lightly. But right now it's rubber glove time. Just a little bit more about this before I grab it and get it all dirty. My pump is trying to pump up. I'm a little low on fluid, but it's going to pump up. It's going to run that solvent right through there like so. I'll just clean it and clean it and clean it until I'm satisfied with the brushes and everything, not the wire brushes. I got soft brushes here for that kind of stuff. That's what we're doing now. There she is, all clean, dried. Want to check it for, see how clean it is. There you go. No dirt in that thing. Get out of the light. There we go. It's clean enough for me. Just hold your light bulb in there and you'll be able to see through it. Now then, all we got to do here is mist it. Okay, I hold this in a trash can to mist it so that I don't want it all over the place. And we're going to hold up the light and see how it looks. Yep, just a tinge of red on there. Still see through it. It ain't blocking any of the ports. So this is good to go. Let's put it back on the bike. Thing I hadn't noticed taking it apart. Apparently one of the screws got lost at one time. I don't know if I did it or somebody else. And now one of them's chrome. I checked the threads. The threads are the same, but there was no washer with it. Luckily I have plenty of bolts and washers. So that'll be put back together properly. I'm going to seal it up and that'll be done. Done. And all shined up. Another thing I want to make a point of is you want to clean them pipes up before you start it. You get any oil on it, it will burn on there. You see there's a little oil here and there. I don't even know where that came from, but it will be wiped down because it will burn onto there. Your fingerprints will burn on there too. Get out your Windex, clean up your pipes before you put it back together and start it. Okay, we're going to check the transmission oil now. That's a pretty simple thing. You need a 3/8 inch Allen wrench, and it shouldn't be that tight. So we're going to unscrew that and pull that out and read the dipstick. We'll wipe it off, stick it back in, and then read the dipstick. All right. Yeah, pulled it out, wiped it off because it isn't going to give you a true reading until you stick it back in there again and see what it says. Okay, you don't have to tighten it when you're checking the oil again. Just take it until it touches. Let's see if we can read this oil. And it looks like I can't read it with the camera. But anyway, I'll read it and tell you. It looks like it says add. Yes, the transmission was a little low. I'd say probably about a cup low or less. And that's about what we got left in here. So I'm going to pour it in there and we'll recheck it. So check everything before you get on the road because it doesn't hurt. And it might save you a transmission or motor or something. Well, don't know if you could see it before, but it was on the bottom line. Can't see it now. On the transmission. You're supposed to check it with it standing up. So I put in 1/2 a cup and that brought it up to the full line. So we're good to go on transmission fluid now. There are all kinds of oil filter removal tools. I prefer this one. It grips on there and then it just tightens down and spins it right off. I use this long wrench right here so I can get in there and have nothing hurting it. This fits into that right there and spins it right off. Put that right on there. Put that on your oil filter and then twist the handle and you get it right to come off there just like that. That's how that works. Okay, oil filter's off. Naturally, it dribbled a little oil here and there. I'm just going to take some brake cleaner, spray that up. I've got my oil bucket under it to catch any of the oil that came out of the filter. And the brake fluid, brake cleaner I'll put on it. Now we put the other one back on once it's all cleaned up. You put a little dab of oil right on top of here. Just enough to coat it. Nice clean oil. Put that on there. Screw that on a little more. Nice until it touches, then about a quarter of a turn more. Nice and snugly, but not tight, or you're going to be beating that thing off when you take it off later. Okay, oil cleaner's on. All cleaned up. Used this parts cleaner. Brake and parts cleaner. Sprayed that in there, cleaned everything up. You don't want to probably spray that on your paint if you don't have to. But she's ready to go, I think. Okay, it's been about 45 minutes or longer. And the oil has quit even dripping out of there. Now, this is something that I've screwed up once and I won't ever do it again. Make sure you put the oil plug back in before you put the oil in there. So let's put the oil plug in and then start filling it up with my Mobil 1 synthetic oil, 2050. Now this is a little concerning. I put 3 quarts of oil in here and it says it's full. In the owner's manual it says it holds 4. So I measured the oil I took out. I only took out 2.5 quarts. You can see that right there. 2.5 quarts is all that came out of that motor, and it drained dry. It had quit dripping. It was about 2 hours on the draining. So you may want to make sure you check that before you try to stick in 4 quarts. That's for sure. Okay, you're going to want to check your signal lights. Let's try the right one. Use a blinking, front and rear. Let's try the left one. This is what will get you in trouble, not having lights on here. Some jackass will run into you. Front one's working on the left side. Left rear is working. Now then, if I can reach it, I will try both of them. I was able to reach it and turn on my emergency flashers, which are working, which I knew they would, because if your left and right works, usually the rest of them work. So we got the lights working. What you want to do to get them both turned on is turn on left and right signals at the same time. And to turn them off, you got to do the same thing. But right here's your tensioner. You can check that. You can see I've marked mine. As long as it's up there, it's okay. You got a white mark there where it's good to go. There or there, either one, without any pressure. They got a gauge you can do too, but it costs a lot of money. Not needed. Let's see if we can see the brake pads in there. I can't see them. There they are. Barely see them. I can barely see them. I don't know if you can see them at all. Probably the camera is all crooked. But it's got about a quarter left on it, third on that one. They don't come with very much on the damn things to begin with. Let's see what we can see back here. There we go. You can see that one up in there. I don't think I've been that long ago I replaced them. That one there's got probably half at least, and I'm guessing that might be what it is. But I got plenty of brake pad left on it. If you can see it up there, I'm sorry, the camera's probably twisted the wrong way and everything, but that's the only way I could get the camera in there to show you the brake pads up there. They're way up there to your left. I can't point at them. I'm holding a light on them. But I'll put an arrow there. Well, that's all done for now. So what I've done is I've added it. You noticed from September of last year till this oil change, there's only 3,000 miles, approximately. And that's because it got rebuilt at probably 20, I think it was 23,000 miles. It got everything redone. So I've only put 1,600 miles on it since it's been totally done. The oil looked almost clean coming out of it. So I checked off everything I've done here. I put down that we put in a new battery in December, which it still only got 1,600 miles on it also. And everything's filled out, so I'll know what I've done, and you'll know what I need to do next time. So anyway, I hope that helped you out a little bit. I'm sure there's plenty I missed, and I'm sure plenty of people will tell me. But this will get you on the road, get your oil changed at least, and, you know, check it out. You want to always check your tires and such. Mine are good enough to get me to Sturgis and back. These bigger tires on these bikes last a lot longer than the old bikes. Good depth right there, in there. We're good to go.